I can afford this small expense, it's just $5. This seemingly innocent thought is costing Americans billions in hidden fees annually, and that's only the beginning of our money problems. The psychology behind spending is both fascinating and terrifying. Nearly 70% of Americans make financial decisions driven purely by emotions. Companies deliberately design subscription models knowing you'll likely forget to cancel. Throughout this video, we'll uncover the subtle psychological tricks that drain your wallet without you noticing. Get ready to discover 9 dangerous spending traps that are silently eroding your financial future, and learn the practical strategies to protect yourself from each one. The $5 coffee myth exposed. Ever notice how financial gurus seem weirdly obsessed with your morning coffee habit? It's like they've formed some kind of anti-latte coalition whose sole mission is to make you feel guilty about that steaming cup of joy. Skip the $5 coffee and become a millionaire, they preach from their high-rise offices, probably sipping on their own premium brews while giving this advice. But here's the thing. There's actually a method to their madness. That coffee example isn't random at all. Financial experts deliberately use your daily caffeine fix as their go-to example because it perfectly illustrates a psychological blind spot most of us have when it comes to spending money. Let's break this down. On the surface, $5 for coffee seems totally reasonable, right? It's just pocket change, the price of a small daily pleasure that helps you function as a human being before 10 a.m. Nobody's going broke over $5. Except when you do the math. I know, who wants to do math before coffee? That innocent little habit adds up faster than you might think. That $5 daily coffee translates to $35 a week, $150 a month, and a whopping $1,825 a year. Suddenly your small expense doesn't seem so small anymore, does it? Think of your finances like a bucket you're trying to fill with water. Your income flows in from the top and your savings collect at the bottom. That coffee habit? It's like a small but persistent hole in the side of your bucket. Each drop seems insignificant, barely noticeable as it escapes, but given enough time, those drops prevent your bucket from ever filling completely. This is what financial experts call opportunity cost. Every dollar spent on coffee isn't just gone. It's also not growing for you elsewhere. When financial experts calculate these numbers, they're determining what that money could have been doing instead. At a conservative 7% average annual return, the historical average for long-term stock market investments, it's that $5 daily coffee money invested over 20 years wouldn't just save you $36,500 in direct costs, it would grow to over $50,000 through compound interest. Take my friend Mike, who tracked his spending for the first time at age 35. He was shocked to discover he'd spent over $30,000 on fancy coffee since college. If I had invested even half of that, he told me, visibly shaken, I could have paid off my student loans years ago. That realization changed his entire relationship with small purchases. But don't feel bad if this calculation surprises you. Our brains aren't wired to think this way naturally. We have this fascinating psychological quirk called hedonic discounting, our brain's tendency to minimize the perceived impact of small, frequent expenses. Basically, our caveman brains evolved to handle immediate threats and opportunities, not to calculate the 20-year compound growth potential of $5 bills. When we look at a coffee price tag, our brain categorizes it as insignificant, almost automatically. It doesn't trigger any financial alarm bells because it falls below our psychological threshold for what registers as expensive. This applies to subscription services, daily snacks, impulse buys at Target, and countless other small purchases we make without a second thought. These tiny expenses collectively derail your financial future while flying under your psychological radar. What makes this especially tricky is the emotional component. That morning coffee ritual brings real joy and comfort. It's a moment of peace before the chaos of the day, a small act of self-care, or maybe the only thing keeping you from telling your boss what you really think. There's legitimate value there. The question isn't whether that daily pleasure is worth $5, it's whether it's worth $50,000 over time. That calculation pits present you against future you in a financial cage match. Present, you wants that delicious coffee and the immediate happiness it brings. Future, you wants financial security, less stress about money, and maybe the ability to retire sometime before your 90th birthday. When framed this way, your coffee habit represents a trade-off between immediate gratification and long-term well-being. This isn't about demonizing coffee or making you feel guilty about small pleasures. The point is awareness. Most people make these trade-offs completely unconsciously, never realizing they're sacrificing significant future wealth for relatively minor present comforts. The real psychological trap lies in how we perceive these choices. We're not making a single conscious decision to trade $50,000 in future money for coffee. That would be an obvious no. Instead, we're making hundreds of seemingly insignificant $5 decisions that feel completely disconnected from our financial future. Our brains work against us here. We're psychologically predisposed to undervalue small, regular expenses and dramatically discount future benefits. This is why saving for retirement is so hard. Future benefits feel abstract and distant, while today's expenses feel concrete and immediate. This same psychological blind spot affects countless areas of our financial lives. Think about all the small daily or monthly expenses that seem perfectly reasonable in isolation, but might be silently sabotaging your financial future when added together. This doesn't mean you need to live like a financial monk, denying yourself every small pleasure. The key is making intentional choices rather than automatic ones. Maybe your daily coffee truly is worth the long-term cost to you. That's a valid choice, but it should be a conscious choice, understanding the real financial impact. For many people, the solution isn't cutting out all small pleasures. It's picking the ones that bring genuine joy and eliminating the ones that don't. Maybe your store-bought lunch doesn't bring nearly as much happiness as your morning coffee. In that case, bringing lunch from home while keeping your coffee ritual might be the perfect compromise. The most powerful change isn't necessarily eliminating your coffee habit. It's becoming aware of how your brain naturally discounts small, regular expenses and then making deliberate decisions that align with your true priorities. Marketing mind games, how companies hack your brain. That $5 coffee decision isn't happening in a peaceful little bubble. It's actually taking place on a battlefield where marketing experts have spent years mapping every single weakness in your mental defenses. Behind those innocent-looking store displays and perfectly crafted emails is an entire science dedicated to making you spend money without thinking twice about it. Companies are actively hacking the decision-making processes in your brain. Think about the last time you bought something you didn't actually plan to buy. Maybe it was that limited edition sneaker drop that suddenly felt essential, or the way you rushed to checkout during that flash sale. These weren't random behaviors. They were carefully engineered responses to psychological triggers designed specifically to bypass your rational thinking. Marketing tactics operate like invisible puppeteers pulling the strings of your wallet, with the scarcity principle being one of their most powerful weapons. This tactic plays on our deep-seated fear of missing out by creating urgency around limited-time offers, limited quantities, or exclusive access. When you see only 2 left in stock or sale ends in 340 off 22, your brain values that item more simply because it appears to be scarce or disappearing. The effectiveness of this manipulation is striking. Studies show that 60% of consumers make reactive purchases within 24 hours after experiencing FOMO. More than half of us pull out our credit cards because we're worried about missing a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity that will probably come around again next month with a different name. Countdown timers online serve as psychological pressure tools. Your brain sees that clock ticking down and enters a mild stress response, pushing you to make quick decisions before properly considering if you actually need the item. This is why flash sales and limited edition drops are so profitable. They short-circuit your normal decision-making process. Pricing strategies are equally calculated. The $9.99 price tag instead of a clean $10 exploits what psychologists call the left-digit effect, where your brain focuses disproportionately on the leftmost digit of a price. When you see $9.99, your brain registers in the $9 range. making it seem cheaper than it actually is. This fundamental manipulation of how your brain processes numbers creates an impression of value that isn't really there. Try mentally converting all those $19.99 and $99.99 prices to $20 and $100 while shopping, and you'll see exactly how stores have been playing with your perception. The anchoring effect works alongside charm pricing to further distort your value judgment. Those original prices with a line through them make the sale price seem like an incredible deal. That first piece of information becomes the reference point for all value judgments that follow. When you see a jacket originally priced at $200 now on sale for $120, your brain thinks you're getting an $80 discount, even though the jacket was never meant to sell at $200. That price existed solely to anchor your perception of value. Social proof might be the most powerful tactic because it targets our innate desire to follow what others are doing. Customer reviews, bestseller tags, and people also bought recommendations are carefully crafted psychological triggers. When you see a product with hundreds of 5-star reviews or a most popular choice badge, your brain automatically assigns more value to it because others have validated it. This social validation is so powerful that studies show 71% of consumers are more likely to make purchases based on social media referrals alone. Whether online or in physical stores, even colors, placement, and packaging are weaponized against your wallet. Vibrant colors create excitement, calming blues build trust, and strategic product placement maximizes visibility. Those impulse items near the checkout line are positioned exactly where you're most vulnerable to making an unplanned purchase. These tactics combine to create the perfect psychological storm. Imagine encountering a limited-time offer on a product with a crossed-out higher price labeled as a customer favorite. In eye-catching packaging for just $19.99, every aspect has been engineered to bypass your rational decision-making and trigger an emotional purchase. What makes this manipulation so effective is that most of us have no idea it's happening. These techniques work directly on our emotional brain, the part that makes quick, instinctive decisions, while completely sidestepping the rational part that might question whether we actually need another pair of shoes or the latest tech gadget. The cumulative effect of these tactics harms our financial health. We make purchases we didn't plan for, spend money we might not have, and potentially go into debt for things we don't actually need, all because companies have learned exactly which psychological buttons to push. These aren't occasional marketing campaigns, they're constant, omnipresent strategies that follow you from store to store, website to website, app to app. Even when you think you're making a rational purchasing decision, chances are your choice has been heavily influenced by these invisible psychological manipulations. Think about those moments when you've bought something and later wondered, why did I even get this? That's not a failure of willpower. It's evidence that these psychological tactics worked exactly as designed. They bypassed your conscious decision-making process and went straight for the emotional triggers that drive impulsive spending. The real danger lies in how these tactics combine with our brain's natural tendencies. We're already wired to underestimate small, frequent purchases, and when you add in the sophisticated psychological manipulation of modern marketing, it creates a perfect storm that can seriously damage your financial future. The subscription trap, paying for nothing. While you're busy stressing about those big impulse purchases that hit your wallet all at once, there's something way sneakier happening behind the scenes of your finances. Your bank statement is hiding a money leak that's been engineered to fly completely under your radar. Subscription services you signed up for months or even years ago that you've completely forgotten about, but are still paying for religiously every single month. Think about it. When was the last time you actually scrolled through your bank statement line by line? Subscription services have expanded across every industry imaginable. Beyond Netflix and Spotify, we now have meal kit deliveries appearing at our doors, fitness apps tracking our workouts, cloud storage holding our photos, and premium versions of apps we could use for free, each one slipping a small charge into our monthly statements. These subscription business models are deliberately designed to become invisible to you over time. The entire business strategy relies on you forgetting they exist. Auto-renewal forms the foundation of their entire business model. Companies know that once that initial subscription decision is made, human psychology works in their favor. They're counting on you to forget you're paying them at all. Subscription services have been around for over 400 years, starting with newspapers and magazines. However, the digital revolution has transformed this business model into a sophisticated system of financial extraction. You voluntarily signed up for these services, checking that little box, agreeing to automatic renewal in those terms and conditions you never read. Even when people barely use a service, they often continue paying because of the sunk cost fallacy. Your brain reasons, "I've already paid for 6 months of this fitness app, so I can't quit now, or that money was wasted." Instead of cutting your losses, you keep paying, hoping someday you'll actually use that app you downloaded months ago. Take Sarah, a marketing professional who finally reviewed her bank statement during a financial checkup. She discovered she was paying for 3 streaming services she hadn't watched in over a year, a language learning app she'd abandoned after 2 weeks, and a premium news subscription she'd completely forgotten about. "I was shocked to realize I was throwing away almost $70 every month on services I wasn't using," she said. "That's over $800 a year I could have put toward my vacation fund or emergency savings." The statistics are alarming. The average American household subscribes to 4.1 paid services, costing around $4.39 monthly. That adds up to nearly $500 per year. And that's just the average. Many people pay much more without realizing it. That's equivalent to taking 5 $100 bills and slowly tearing them into pieces throughout the year. The subscription model has become so popular that streaming service subscriptions alone surpassed 1 billion worldwide in 2020. Companies are basing their entire business models on this recurring revenue. The free trial trap is another piece of psychological manipulation. When services require your credit card information up front for that totally free trial, they're exploiting our optimism bias, our tendency to believe we'll remember to cancel before the trial ends. But life gets busy, you forget to set a reminder, and suddenly you're paying monthly for a service you used once. Companies make this worse by deliberately complicating the cancellation process. Canceling a gym membership can feel more challenging than learning quantum physics. You might need to call during specific hours, speak to multiple representatives, fill out forms, send certified mail, or navigate numerous other obstacles just to stop monthly charges. Subscription fatigue compounds this problem. When you've signed up for numerous subscription services, you lose track of what you're paying for. Your awareness of these regular charges disappears, and companies count on this mental exhaustion to maintain their revenue. In a recent survey, respondents cited automatic renewals as the main reason they hadn't canceled unused subscriptions. It's not that people want to keep paying, it's that the default setting of auto-renewal combined with complicated cancellation procedures creates perfect conditions for continued payment with zero value received. Take 10 minutes right now to review your last bank statement line by line. Look for recurring charges, especially those with company names you don't recognize. Subscription services often bill under parent company names. You'll likely find at least 1 or 2 mysterious charges for services you've forgotten about. These companies have developed sophisticated payment recovery solutions. When your credit card expires or gets declined, these systems automatically try alternative payment methods or send urgent notices to update your payment information. Top subscription businesses are 12 times more likely to use these solutions because every canceled subscription means lost lifetime value. Subscription bundling further complicates tracking your expenses. Companies package multiple subscriptions together, making it harder to monitor what you're actually paying for. These bundles might seem convenient, but often include services you'll never use. What makes automatic charges particularly dangerous to your financial health is their compounding effect over time. Unlike one-time purchases, where you feel the impact immediately, subscription services slowly drain your accounts month after month, year after year. While $15 here and $10 there might seem insignificant, Multiply that by 12 months and several years, and you're looking at thousands of dollars spent on services you rarely or never use. The unused subscription epidemic. Those thousands of dollars aren't just disappearing into thin air, they're funding an empire of unused digital services that you've probably forgotten about entirely. And you're far from alone in this subscription nightmare. A shocking 85% of people are paying monthly for at least one subscription they haven't used in over 30 days. That's millions of people throwing away money on digital services, collecting virtual dust, while the charges keep hitting their accounts like clockwork. Let's talk about the subscription graveyard sitting in your digital life right now. Amazon Prime takes the crown, with 30.1% of subscribers admitting they haven't used it in the past month. Nearly a third of Prime members are paying that annual fee for nothing. Netflix follows as the most unused streaming service, with Disney Plus right behind it. The most popular streaming platforms are often the ones most likely to be forgotten, yet continue draining our accounts. What makes this troubling is these are mainstream, popular subscriptions that somehow stay on our bank statements month after month without providing value. It's like paying rent on an apartment you never visit. Except we don't notice because the charges are relatively small and completely automated. I recently experienced this firsthand when reviewing my credit card statement. There, buried among legitimate purchases, were 3 subscription services I hadn't used in months. That sinking feeling in my stomach when I calculated how much money I'd wasted was both embarrassing and infuriating. This emotional response is common when people finally confront their subscription reality. The companies behind these services aren't making it easy for you to leave either. There's a reason canceling feels like such a headache. It's designed that way on purpose. When survey respondents were asked why they hadn't canceled unused subscriptions, the number one reason cited was having automatic renewals set up. Some services force you to call a representative instead of allowing simple cancellation through account settings. Others bury the cancellation option deep within confusing menus or make you endure multiple confirmation screens. They're counting on you giving up halfway through the process because it's too much trouble. There's a psychological concept at work here called status quo bias, a cognitive bias that makes us resist changing our current situation, even when change would benefit us. When it comes to subscriptions, this bias works overtime. The mental effort required to cancel feels disproportionately large compared to the small monthly charge. Our brains say, "I'll deal with it later," except later never comes. The average monthly value of unused paid subscriptions is $32.84 per person, adding up to nearly $400 a year wasted for nothing in return. Think about what you could do with that extra money. A weekend getaway, monthly nice dinners, or investments for your future. What's telling is how people handle subscription overload. Nearly half of paid subscription customers, 46%, admit to sharing logins with others because they can't afford their own accounts. This behavior reveals most of us know we're overpaying for services. We recognize their value isn't matching their cost, so we split the expense. It signals the subscription model has reached a breaking point for many consumers. The subscription economy continues expanding across nearly every category imaginable. Beyond streaming services, we now have subscriptions for beauty products, razors, pet supplies, prepackaged meals, clothing, books, coffee, wine, and fitness equipment. Streaming subscriptions alone passed 1 billion worldwide in 2020. Each service aims to become so integrated into your routine that you forget you're paying for it. These companies are increasingly using artificial intelligence to analyze subscriber behavior and create retention offers based on usage patterns, making it harder to cancel when you try. We noticed you haven't watched anything lately. How about 50% off for the next 3 months? Sound familiar? Let's focus on solutions. Take 15 minutes this week to review your credit card and bank statements line by line. Create a spreadsheet listing every subscription, its cost, and when you last used it. This exercise alone might shock you into action. For subscriptions unused in the last month, ask yourself, does this bring me joy, convenience, or peace of mind? If not, cancel it immediately, no matter how painful the process. The temporary inconvenience saves hundreds or thousands of dollars over time. If you're concerned about missing a service after canceling, try this. Cancel anyway, but note it in your calendar for 2 weeks later. If you genuinely miss it during that time, you can always sign up again. Most likely, you won't think about it after it's gone. For subscriptions worth keeping, look for optimization opportunities. Many services offer discounted annual plans compared to monthly billing. Others have family plans that let you split costs legitimately. Some even offer referral programs that can reduce your own cost. The subscription industry banks on your forgetfulness and psychological inertia. They count on subscribers staying long after value has disappeared. The model depends on what insiders call involuntary churn, when subscribers don't actively leave but drop off due to failed payments. This accounts for over 53% of all subscription cancellations. Every time you stay subscribed to an unused service, you're reinforcing a business model designed to extract maximum value from minimum engagement. FOMO, the most expensive fear. Beyond those silent subscription drains, there's a psychological money vacuum that does something even more insidious. It gets you excited about emptying your bank account. That nagging fear you're missing something amazing isn't just an occasional feeling. It's a financial tripwire that 69% of millennials stumble over regularly. And unlike forgotten subscriptions where you get nothing for your money, this trap comes with the bonus of actually enjoying the process of going broke. Welcome to the world of FOMO, fear of missing out, the emotion that's costing you thousands more than all those unused digital services combined. FOMO creates gnawing anxiety that everyone else is experiencing something you're not, and that anxiety carries a hefty price tag. Let's get real about how expensive this fear actually is. Nearly 40% of people, especially those in Gen Z, are taking on serious debt just to keep up with their social circles. Almost half of an entire generation is willingly going into the red because they're afraid of being left out. This extends beyond wanting the newest phone or coolest shoes. It's about the social cost of saying, "I can't afford that," when friends suggest a weekend getaway or fancy dinner. FOMO operates like a mirage in the desert. The satisfaction seems real and vital in the moment, constantly shimmering on the horizon. But like a traveler chasing that illusory oasis, you exhaust your resources pursuing something that continuously recedes into the distance, leaving you financially depleted without the satisfaction you were promised. What makes FOMO particularly dangerous is that it masquerades as authentic desire. When you're scrolling through your feed and see friends living it up at that hot new restaurant, booking dream vacations, or showing off the latest tech, your brain doesn't register "I'm experiencing targeted marketing and curated reality." It registers "everyone's having amazing experiences without me." The resulting anxiety triggers spending that feels necessary in the moment, even when it's completely optional. Social media actively maximizes that feeling through sophisticated psychological techniques that deliberately amplify your insecurities. These platforms are designed to make you feel inadequate if you're not constantly consuming and experiencing at the same level as the carefully curated lives you see online. The mechanics behind this are calculated. Instagram and TikTok are optimized to create that exact sensation of missing out. Features like limited time offers, flash sales, and countdown timers are deliberately crafted psychological tools, creating artificial urgency. When you see that 24 hours left tag, your brain short-circuits its normal rational decision-making process and pushes you toward immediate action. This exploits what psychologists call the scarcity effect. We instinctively value things more when we believe they're limited or about to disappear. That's why limited edition releases get people lining up around the block, even for products they don't particularly need. Your brain is hardwired to react to perceived scarcity, because, evolutionarily speaking, scarce resources were literally a matter of survival. Now that same survival instinct is being hijacked to sell you concert tickets and limited edition sneakers. FOMO creates a cycle of continuous spending that damages long-term financial health. The more you buy into the idea that purchases and experiences define your social worth, the more you'll keep spending to maintain that perceived status. it becomes a hamster wheel where the finish line keeps moving. Nearly half of millennials admit they've taken on debt specifically to keep up with their peers, not for necessities, but because they couldn't bear feeling left out. They're borrowing from their future selves to avoid feeling excluded today. The psychology driving this behavior connects directly to our need for belonging. When you see someone you admire using products, your brain creates an immediate shortcut from "they have it" to "I should have it too." This is why influencer marketing has exploded into a multi-billion-dollar industry. The desire for validation through purchases isn't just about having things, it's about acceptance. Humans are fundamentally social creatures, and the fear of exclusion is deeply wired into our psychology. The real financial damage happens because FOMO purchases rarely follow any budget or financial plan. They're reactive and emotional, often made without consideration of their long-term impact. That $300 concert ticket doesn't seem like a big deal when everyone's going, but enough impulse buys can mean thousands of dollars that could have been invested or used to pay down debt. The satisfaction from these purchases tends to be short-lived. The initial rush quickly fades, but the financial impact, especially if you put it on credit, lingers much longer. You're trading long-term financial health for momentary relief from social anxiety. The brands behind these products have weaponized FOMO into a marketing strategy. Those buy one, get one free deals and limited time offers are calculated tactics designed to short-circuit your decision-making process. The countdown timer on a website isn't there to help you. It's there to create anxiety that drives immediate action. Protect yourself with the 24-hour rule. When you feel that urgent need to buy something, wait a day before making the purchase. This buffer creates space for rational thinking to return. It's amazing how many must-have items suddenly seem optional when you've slept on the decision. Another effective strategy is creating a clear vision of your actual financial goals. When you have a concrete picture of what you're working toward, it becomes easier to redirect emotional spending urges toward what truly matters to you, not what marketing has convinced you matters. Setting a specific budget for social spending helps too. This isn't about deprivation. It's about making conscious choices rather than reactive ones. Recognizing your personal FOMO triggers is crucial. When you identify what sparks that "I need this too" feeling, you can be more mindful when encountering those triggers. Emotional spending, how feelings empty your wallet. While FOMO pushes us to spend based on what others have, there's a sneakier force emptying our wallets, our own internal emotional weather system. Did you know that 70% of Americans essentially let their feelings swipe their credit cards? That random Amazon haul after a stressful day or those "congratulations to me" splurges are part of a predictable pattern that retailers are counting on. Our emotions influence what we buy and often become the entire reason we're shopping in the first place. The biggest culprit? Stress. It's the #1 emotion driving Americans to whip out their credit cards when they probably shouldn't. When work is overwhelming, relationship troubles hit, or life feels like too much, shopping offers that quick hit of relief. Your brain says, "Hey, I know things are rough, but look at this shiny new thing. Don't you feel better now?" And temporarily you actually do. Celebration shopping might be even more dangerous because it comes with built-in permission. Got a promotion? I earned this splurge. Finished a tough project? I deserve a reward. These happiness-fueled purchases fly under our financial radar because they feel justified in the moment. The problem is we're constantly finding new reasons to celebrate, creating an endless cycle of earned expenses. Then there's boredom shopping, that mindless scrolling through online stores when you have nothing better to do. Like my friend who recently confessed to buying 3 pairs of shoes she didn't need simply because she was stuck at home with a cold and felt restless. It's the digital equivalent of wandering into a mall to kill time, except now it's happening on your couch at 11 p.m. when your decision-making abilities are compromised. And sadness spending, that retail therapy that promises to lift your spirits when you're down, creates its own pathway to unplanned purchases. When you make a purchase, your brain's reward system releases dopamine, the same neurochemical triggered by eating chocolate or winning a game. This temporary mood boost creates a powerful feedback loop. Feeling bad, buy something, feeling better. Your brain learns this connection quickly, making emotional spending more likely the next time you're feeling stressed, bored, or sad. This cycle operates like a pleasure treadmill, requiring increasingly frequent or expensive purchases to achieve the same emotional high. Millennials and Gen Z are particularly vulnerable to this cycle, with approximately 75% admitting their feelings directly influence their purchasing decisions. Financial psychologist Brad Klontz suggests this heightened susceptibility might stem from a reduced focus on long-term financial planning. When combined with one-click purchasing and buy now, pay later options, this emotional vulnerability creates a perfect storm for financial stress. Retailers understand this connection between emotions and spending better than anyone, designing entire shopping experiences around it. The lighting, music, and scents in physical stores are carefully orchestrated to put you in a spending mood. Online platforms have their own manipulation tactics. Limited time offers creating urgency, personalized recommendations that feel eerily perfect for your current emotional state, and frictionless purchase buttons that let you buy before your rational brain can intervene. These strategies work because our emotions move faster than our logical thinking. By the time your practical side shows up saying, "Do you really need this?" your emotional brain has already hit the buy button. Marketers know exactly which emotional buttons to push. Luxury brands trigger aspirational feelings, comfort foods play on nostalgia, and tech products promise solutions to problems you didn't know you had. The emotional spending cycle follows a predictable pattern. First comes the excitement and dopamine rush of buying something new. Soon after, guilt arrives when you realize you've spent money you shouldn't have. This uncomfortable feeling triggers rationalization. "I'll use this all the time," or "it was on sale, so I actually saved money." This justification temporarily relieves the guilt, setting you up to repeat the cycle when the next emotional trigger appears. Nearly 40% of emotional spenders have gone into debt because of these habits. The resulting financial strain creates more stress, leading to more emotional spending to cope, a vicious cycle that's incredibly difficult to break without awareness. Breaking free starts with recognizing your personal triggers. Are you more likely to overspend when stressed about work, feeling lonely, celebrating a win? Once you identify these patterns, you can implement strategies to interrupt the cycle before it drains your bank account. The 24-hour rule is surprisingly effective. When you feel that emotional urge to buy something, wait 24 hours before making the purchase. This cooling-off period gives your rational brain time to catch up with your emotions. Many must-have items lose their appeal after a good night's sleep. For bigger purchases, extend this to 72 hours or a week. Switching to cash for discretionary spending creates psychological friction that cards don't provide. Studies show people spend up to 20% more when using cards versus cash, partly because physical money makes the pain of paying more tangible. Before making emotionally driven purchases, ask yourself, how will I feel about this purchase next week, next month, next year? And am I buying this to feel something or avoid feeling something? These questions shift your brain from emotional to rational processing. Finding an accountability buddy, a friend with similar financial goals, or a partner who agrees to check in before unplanned purchases can provide crucial perspective. Often, explaining why you need something to another person reveals when you're in the grip of emotional spending. Setting specific spending limits for different emotional states acknowledges that completely eliminating emotional shopping isn't realistic. It's about creating boundaries that prevent occasional treats from becoming financial disasters. The impulse purchase trap. While setting boundaries for emotional spending helps protect your wallet, there's another spending trap that's even more widespread and invisible. Ever notice how you walk into a store needing just milk and bread, but somehow leave with a cart full of great finds? That's not a coincidence or a personal failing. It's the result of sophisticated psychological manipulation happening right under your nose. Let's talk about a mind-blowing reality check. Between 40% and 80% of everything we buy wasn't actually on our shopping list when we walked into the store. The vast majority of our purchases happen on impulse, unplanned, spontaneous decisions that retailers have engineered their entire business models around encouraging. This is about understanding that stores are literal purchasing traps designed by experts who know exactly how your brain works. Think about the last time you went to Target or Walmart. Notice how the essentials, milk, eggs, bread, are almost always located at the back of the store? Retailers strategically position necessities to force you through a gauntlet of temptation. By the time you grab that gallon of milk, you've already passed through clothing, electronics, seasonal items, and home goods, maximizing your exposure to products you never intended to buy. Those checkout lines? They're the final battleground for your wallet. The small, inexpensive items placed right where you'll be standing idle are carefully selected products that encourage what marketers call low-involvement purchasing decisions. Small enough that you don't need to think hard about buying them, but profitable enough to boost the store's bottom line. The real genius behind impulse purchasing is something psychologists call the shopping momentum effect. Here's how it works. Once you put that first item in your cart, your brain switches from a deliberative mindset to an implementation mindset. The hardest purchase decision is the first one. After that, your brain has essentially given itself permission to keep shopping. That's why stores often put sale items near the entrance. They're trying to get you to make that critical first purchase that opens the floodgates. The sensory experience of shopping is another powerful tool retailers use. Slow-tempo music encourages shoppers to move more slowly through stores, increasing browsing time by up to 40%. The right scents trigger emotional responses that make you more likely to buy, like cinnamon during holidays or fresh-baked cookies in grocery stores. Even lighting is precisely calibrated, with warmer lights in clothing stores making you feel comfortable and likely to linger. Physical stores actually generate more impulse purchases than online shopping. About 40% of consumers report spending more than planned in brick-and-mortar stores, compared to just 25% online. This difference comes down to sensory marketing. Physical stores stimulate all 5 senses simultaneously, creating an environment that short-circuits rational decision-making. Online stores can't pipe in smells or let you touch products, giving you a slight advantage in maintaining shopping discipline. Online retailers have developed their own arsenal of impulse-triggering techniques. Those customers who bought this also bought recommendations are the digital equivalent of candy at checkout. One-click purchasing removes friction that might give you time to reconsider. Limited time offers with countdown timers create artificial urgency. Social media platforms have taken impulse buying to new heights by blurring the line between entertainment and shopping. Social media triggers impulse purchases through influencer endorsements, reviews, and user-generated content. That constant stream of recommendations from people who seem just like you makes resistance difficult. Platforms like Instagram and TikTok demonstrate this effect. When products trend, they experience massive sales spikes almost overnight. Remember that viral TikTok feta pasta recipe that emptied grocery store cheese sections nationwide? That's social media-driven impulse purchasing at work. Every aspect of the shopping experience, from layout to lighting to product placement, works together to separate you from your money. Since most impulse purchases aren't budgeted for, they often end up on credit cards, potentially triggering interest charges that make the true cost even higher. So how do you protect yourself when shopping environments are designed to make you spend more? The first step is awareness. Recognizing these psychological triggers can help you resist them. Ask yourself, do I make more impulse purchases in physical stores or online? Understanding your vulnerability points gives you specific situations to be cautious about. A practical defense strategy is implementing a pause period before non-essential purchases. For smaller items, try a 10-minute rule. Walk away and do something else in the store before deciding. For larger purchases, the 24-hour rule works wonders. Take a photo of the item, leave the store, and see if you still want it tomorrow. This buffer creates space for your rational brain to catch up with your emotional impulses. Another technique is using cash for in-person shopping trips. Studies consistently show people spend less when using physical cash versus cards or digital payments. There's something psychologically painful about handing over actual money that creates natural spending friction. Plus, a fixed amount of cash creates a hard feeling that cards don't provide. Creating a specific impulse budget can be surprisingly effective. Allocate a small monthly amount that you're allowed to spend impulsively without guilt. When the fund is empty, impulse purchasing stops until next month. This approach acknowledges human nature while maintaining overall financial boundaries. Shopping with a detailed list and committing to sticking to it is another powerful defense. Writing down what you need before entering a store creates a psychological commitment that can help counter environmental cues pushing you toward unplanned purchases. Some financial advisors even recommend wearing headphones while shopping to block out music and announcements designed to influence your spending. Lifestyle inflation, the raise that makes you poorer. Those shopping defenses might save you money today, but what happens when your income suddenly jumps? It turns out getting a raise could actually be making you poorer in the long run. This weird financial paradox has most of us scratching our heads, but it explains why so many people with good salaries still struggle to make ends meet. Here's the mind-blowing reality. 73% of millennials are living paycheck to paycheck in 2025, according to research from Lending Club Corporation. These aren't minimum wage workers. These are often folks with solid careers and decent paychecks who somehow still find themselves broke before their next payday. How is that even possible? The answer is lifestyle inflation, or lifestyle creep as financial experts call it, where your spending rises to match every increase in your income. Like a leaky faucet that slowly drains a full tank, each raise gradually erodes your potential savings instead of filling your financial reservoir. That new apartment with the rooftop pool, the fancier car with all the tech features, the weekend getaway that becomes a necessity for your mental health, all transform your raise from a path to financial freedom into permanent financial obligations. Each time we get a raise or bonus, our brain essentially hands us a psychological permission slip to level up our lifestyle. That $300 monthly raise becomes justification for moving to an apartment that costs exactly $300 more per month. These upgrades quickly absorb any income increases, creating a financial plateau despite earning more. Think about it. When was the last time you got a raise and immediately thought, great, I'll increase my retirement contributions by 50% of this amount and put the other 50% in my emergency fund? Your first thought was probably closer to, now I can finally afford that monthly meal kit service, or time to upgrade my phone plan. The research confirms this pattern. A study involving 4,000 adults revealed that 40% of millennials believed they would have accumulated more savings by this point in their lives. Instead of prioritizing savings as their earnings grew, they focused on enhancing their lifestyle. The result? On average, millennials are approximately $25,000 short of where they anticipated being financially. When asked about their spending habits, a third of millennials admitted they prioritized spending over achieving financial milestones. The same research showed that 32% treat themselves more frequently when they receive a salary increase, 17% take more holidays, and 14% book more expensive trips. Each choice might seem reasonable in isolation. Who doesn't deserve a nice vacation after working hard for a raise? But together, they create a pattern that keeps financial freedom perpetually out of reach. What makes this pattern so dangerous is that these lifestyle upgrades don't make us happier long term. This is the hedonic treadmill, the psychological concept that explains how quickly we adapt to improvements in our lifestyle. That fancy new car's excitement wears off in a few months. That gorgeous apartment soon becomes just home and stops giving you that special thrill. But the payments remain, draining your bank account long after the joy has faded. The hedonic treadmill keeps us constantly chasing the next upgrade to maintain our happiness levels. We adjust to our new normal with shocking speed, pushing us to seek even more expensive enhancements for that same satisfaction. You're running faster and faster just to stay in the same place emotionally, while your bank account gets thinner. This cycle becomes particularly dangerous with major life changes. That promotion might require you to dress differently, live in a better neighborhood, or drive a nicer car to client meetings. Suddenly, maintaining your new professional image requires spending that outpaces your actual raise. The financial consequences go beyond reduced savings. Lifestyle inflation can prevent people from achieving major life goals. Without adequate savings, emergencies become crises. Retirement becomes a distant dream rather than an achievable target. Debt becomes a permanent fixture. And the higher your fixed expenses climb, the less freedom you have to make important life changes, like switching to a more fulfilling but lower-paying career, taking time off for family, or starting your own business. How do we break free from this cycle? Financial experts recommend paying yourself first. The moment you receive any income increase, whether a raise, bonus, or side hustle money, immediately transfer a portion into savings or investments before considering how to spend it. Many financial advisors suggest following the 50-30-20 rule when your income increases. Put 50% toward savings or debt reduction, allow 30% for lifestyle improvements, and the remaining 20% toward increased giving or other financial goals. This balanced approach lets you enjoy immediate benefits while building long-term wealth. Automation is your best friend. Set up automatic transfers that happen when your paycheck arrives. By removing the decision-making process entirely, you bypass the temptation to spend everything you make. Another powerful strategy is creating clear financial goals before getting a raise. Having specific targets, like saving for a house down payment or reaching a certain retirement account balance, gives your extra money a purpose before lifestyle inflation claims it. The most successful long-term savers increase their savings rate with each income boost, rather than their spending rate. This creates a financial snowball effect, where savings grow exponentially faster than if maintaining the same savings percentage as income increases. It's also crucial to check what truly brings lasting happiness versus temporary pleasure. Research consistently shows that experiences, relationships, and financial security contribute more to long-term happiness than material upgrades. By focusing spending increases on these areas rather than status symbols, you can improve your quality of life stealth without triggering the hedonic treadmill. Financial security might help you sleep at night, but there's a $64 billion industry dedicated to quietly picking your pocket while you're awake. These sneaky junk fees are strategically engineered to fly under your radar until it's too late to back out of the purchase. And unlike the emotional spending we talked about earlier, these fees aren't even giving you a temporary happiness boost. They're pure profit machines designed to extract money without providing additional value. Think about your last vacation. You probably compared hotel prices, found a sweet deal, and felt pretty good about your budgeting skills. But then came checkout day, and suddenly your bill included a $25 resort fee for amenities you never used, a destination fee that magically appeared, and maybe even a fee for using the hotel safe. Your great deal just became significantly more expensive, and there wasn't much you could do about it. This isn't accidental, it's by design. These fees are strategically hidden until the final moment when you're emotionally committed to the purchase. You've already packed your bags, told your friends about your trip, and mentally checked out of work. Are you really going to cancel everything over an extra $50 per night? Companies are betting you won't, and they're usually right. The airline industry has perfected this art form. Remember when a plane ticket actually included everything you needed to fly? Now airlines charge extra for choosing a seat, even a middle seat, checking a bag, and some even charge $25 just to check in with a counter agent. While hotels and airlines lead the charge, nearly every industry has joined this fee frenzy. Consider how these fees appear across different sectors. Rental cars, $3.95 to $4.95 daily for toll transponders, or $9.99 per day if you decline but use a toll. Restaurants, 5 to 20% service fees plus 1.5 to 3% credit card processing fees. Banks, $5 to $35 monthly for basic accounts and $4.73 average for out-of-network ATMs. Payment apps, 0.5 to 1.75% for immediate transfers of your own money. Cable internet, broadcast fees, sports fees, equipment fees, and infrastructure fees. These hidden charges steadily erode your wealth, diverting funds from your financial goals to corporate profit margins without you even noticing. Every dollar lost to unnecessary fees is a dollar that can't compound toward your future security. There's actually a name for this strategy: drip pricing. Companies show you a base price first, then gradually add mandatory charges throughout the purchase process. By the time you see the final total, you've already invested time, energy, and emotional commitment into the transaction. This psychological manipulation exploits your natural reluctance to start over, making you more likely to accept the inflated cost. The deceptive tactics don't stop there. Companies deliberately bury these fees in fine print using confusing terminology. They're counting on the fact that you won't read the 45-page terms and conditions document, or that you'll be too confused to understand what you're actually agreeing to. When was the last time you actually read the full terms and conditions for anything? That's what they're banking on. Another psychological trick is called price partitioning, breaking down one large cost into several smaller components. This makes the total seem more digestible, even though you're paying the same amount or more. Your brain perceives $89.99 plus a $10 service fee plus a $5 processing fee as less painful than a straightforward $104.99 price tag, even though mathematically they're identical. These fees hit hardest when they're unexpected. That $29 overdraft fee for going $1 over your checking account balance is predatory. It disproportionately impacts those who can least afford it, turning a minor oversight into a significant financial setback. What makes these fees particularly insidious is how they prevent real comparison shopping. When companies hide significant portions of the cost until checkout, it's impossible to make informed decisions based on the true price. You might choose Airline A over Airline B because the ticket is $30 cheaper, only to discover that Airline A charges $40 for a carry-on bag, while Airline B includes it for free. So how do you protect yourself from this billion-dollar stealth tax? Start by assuming there are hidden fees in every transaction and actively look for them before committing. When booking travel, click all the way through to the final payment screen to see the true cost before making decisions. For recurring services like banking, set up regular auditing sessions to review statements for unexpected charges. Clear communication with service providers is also crucial. Before signing up for anything, directly ask, are there any additional fees not included in the advertised price? Get the answer in writing whenever possible. For complex agreements like mortgages or car purchases, consider having a professional review the terms before signing. Staying informed about new regulations helps too. The Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, CFPB, has been pushing for more transparency around junk fees, and some states have passed laws requiring upfront disclosure of all mandatory charges. Knowledge is your best defense in this hidden fee economy. Sometimes, the most effective strategy is voting with your wallet. When you discover hidden fees, let the company know you're taking your business elsewhere, specifically because of their deceptive pricing. Companies track why customers leave, and enough pressure might eventually force more transparent practices. The most powerful protection is a proactive approach, monitoring your financial statements consistently and questioning every unfamiliar charge. Set up a dedicated time each month to audit your accounts and look specifically for convenience fees or other additional charges. These small amounts might seem negligible individually, but they add up to hundreds or even thousands of dollars annually that could be going toward your actual financial goals instead of padding corporate profits. Breaking free the wealth-building mindset. Monitoring your accounts protects your money from sneaky fees. But let's be real. Constantly playing defense against financial traps is exhausting when they're literally everywhere. What if instead of fighting an uphill battle against your psychology, not to mention billion-dollar marketing departments, you could set up a system that makes building wealth practically automatic? Here's the thing about all those psychological money traps we've talked about. Just knowing they exist isn't enough to escape them. It's like knowing donuts are unhealthy, but still finding yourself in the Krispy Kreme drive-thru when you've had a rough day. Our brains are wired to fall for marketing tricks, social pressure, and emotional spending triggers. Think about it. You're constantly bombarded with ads designed by psychology experts, surrounded by friends showing off their latest purchases on Instagram, and dealing with your own emotions after a stressful day. Fighting all that at once is overwhelming. Many of us end up making financial decisions we later regret. This is where practical systems create a financial safety net. Instead of depleting your limited willpower reserves after a long workday, automatic guardrails protect you from impulsive decisions while empowering you to build wealth. Behavioral economics has given us simple but powerful tools to overcome spending triggers and seize control of your financial future. Let me share a framework that transformed my approach to money. After years of promising myself I'd save more next month, spoiler, I never did, I implemented these guardrails. Within 6 months, my savings quadrupled while my stress about money virtually disappeared. Step 1. Implement the 24-hour rule. Whenever you feel the urge to buy something unplanned, wait a full day before purchasing. This tiny delay creates a buffer between your emotional impulse and your wallet, giving your rational brain time to catch up with your emotional brain. This rule short-circuits the emotional high that triggers impulse spending. When something triggers your "I want that" response, waiting 24 hours allows that initial desire to fade. By the next day, you'll either realize you don't need it or confirm it's something that genuinely adds value. This works especially well for online shopping. Instead of clicking "Buy Now," leave items in your cart overnight. Many things that seemed essential at 11 p.m. look unnecessary the next morning. This saves money and spares you from post-purchase guilt. Step 2. Automate your wealth building. Set up automatic transfers to your savings or investment accounts before money hits your checking account. This creates a financial guardrail that works regardless of your mood or motivation levels that day. Automation removes temptation entirely. You can't spend money you never see in your checking account. It's the financial equivalent of not keeping ice cream in the freezer when trying to eat healthier. If it's not there, you won't eat it. This strategy prioritizes your future financial health before any spending happens. When you automatically route a portion of each paycheck directly to savings or investments, you ensure your financial goals are met before you can sabotage them. It's having your vegetables before your dessert. Your future self will thank you. After a few months, you won't even miss that money. Your lifestyle naturally adjusts to what's available in your checking account. We adapt quickly to having slightly less to spend when we never see the money in the first place. Step 3. Practice conscious spending with the remaining funds. While automation handles the mechanics of saving, conscious spending transforms how you think about the money you do spend. Deliberately allocate your money to things that genuinely bring value and joy to your life. This approach creates alignment between your spending and values. When your expenditures match your actual goals, you get more satisfaction from each dollar. Maybe you don't care about expensive clothes but love travel experiences. Cut your clothing budget and redirect that money to your travel fund. Your happiness will increase because your money goes toward what actually matters to you. Track your expenses against your values rather than just categories. Instead of noting, "I spent $200 on dining out," ask yourself, did those meals bring me real joy or connection with people I care about? This reflection creates a feedback loop that naturally steers your spending toward what genuinely improves your life. Budgeting apps can help by setting intentional limits aligned with your priorities. Some apps send alerts when you're approaching your limits, giving you a chance to pause and consider whether additional spending is worthwhile. For a structured approach, the 50-30-20 rule provides a helpful framework. 50% of income to needs, 30% to wants, and 20% to savings and debt repayment. Adjust these percentages based on your circumstances, but use it as a starting point for balancing present enjoyment with future security. The most powerful aspect of this 3-step framework is consistency. The 24-hour rule, automation, and conscious spending work because they create patterns that eventually become your default. Just like brushing your teeth or checking your phone first thing in the morning, these financial habits become second nature with repetition. These guardrails don't just protect you from financial mistakes, they empower you to take control of your financial future with confidence. Taking back control from corporations that design their business models around exploiting your psychological blind spots is a powerful financial move. Small habit changes dramatically impact long-term wealth. Automating savings or recognizing these 9 spending traps doesn't require overhauling your entire financial life overnight. Financial education empowers intentional rather than reactive choices by revealing the psychology behind spending. Your freedom journey begins with conscious decisions. Share this video to help others expose these corporate traps. Together, we can transform from unwitting consumers into financially savvy individuals who see through marketing tactics and reclaim